Now boarding.
Good afternoon, Chairman Feingold, Chairman Paracella, and committee members. I'm joined today with Matt Latanzi, Director of Economic Development, and Jay Monty, Transportation Planner here in the City of Everett. My name is Carlo DeMaria, and I have the honor of serving as the Mayor of the City of Everett. I'm appearing before you today to offer my support for Senate Bill 2692. There are some people who would lead you to believe that this bill is about a soccer stadium, or that it's about being driven by a professional sports organization, but that is misleading. This legislation is about the financial harm that Everett is already suffering from the dwindling value of an outdated environmental nuisance. The need for this legislation began over 3 years ago when representatives from Constellation Energy, formerly Exelon, informed me that their site in Everett essentially was going out of business. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission had ruled that the remaining stations 8 and 9 of the former Mystic generating site will not be needed to supply energy to the grid as of May 2024. As a result, Everett will lose $55 million in tax revenue between fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 26 due to the loss of value from this parcel. We have already lost $28 million since the TIF expired in fiscal year 20. We need this legislation to help pull Everett back from the harm this loss of revenue is causing our community. Because we are already losing revenue, we can't afford to wait several years under the coastal zone management process for a new use. That's what this legislation is about. It's about our community. I think it's important that you know more about Everett when you are considering a bill that is so important to us. We are a comparatively small community, but what we lack in real estate, we make up for in pride. We have families that have lived here for generations who are struggling to keep their homes, and we are one of the communities that continues to attract new residents because of the diversity that flourishes in our neighborhoods. Our residents are hard-working people. Many work multiple jobs to make ends meet. They rely on public transportation. The food pantry we still operate well past the worst days of the pandemic continues to be relied upon as a source of relief. Some of our older residents tell me that the senior meal delivery program that the city still runs is the only reason they are able to eat multiple meals each day. When I talk about the loss of revenue and the need for this legislation, those are the real problems that we are trying to solve with this bill. If you look around at the communities surrounding Everett, they have experienced a massive amount of new growth and development. It's true that a picture can be worth 1,000 words. That's our waterfront. And look across and look at Boston's waterfront, and Somerville's waterfront, and Cambridge. And that's ours. It's pretty obvious in the images I brought with me today that the skylines of our neighbors clearly show the disparities that exist between the opportunities other cities have enjoyed while Everett is still fighting to emerge from its former industrial past. Everett needs the same opportunity to redevelop this area that surrounding communities have already enjoyed, like the Seaport in Boston, Assembly Row in Somerville, and Kendall Square in Cambridge. What we are asking for is economic equity for our environmental justice community so that we can get rid of the dirty industrial uses that we have had to live with for too long, and the chance to bring in desperately needed new growth. We also need this legislation because the history of my hometown has shown that it takes well-financed private interest to clean up former industrial sites that need costly environmental remediation. The former Monsanto chemical plant.
Mayor, if you could consider.
We're going to speak for the six, right, the three of us.
Okay,
They're gonna-
okay.
I'll take it the whole 6 minutes. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I'm a little, I spent a lot of time writing this, and
Okay.
I
Please
just wanted
continue.
to give you a clear picture of why this is so important.
Okay.
The former Monsanto chemical plant was a perfect example. The site sat vacant for decades. The federal government didn't come clean it up. The Commonwealth didn't have the funds to clean it up. We absolutely had no way for ever to clean it up. It sat empty for 5 decades, 50 years almost, maybe even longer. A private company had to come in and spend $1 billion to do that. We are facing the same situation with this parcel of land. The only hope that Everett has to clean up this site is for a private developer to come in and pay for that to work. And the DPA restrictions hurts our chances for that. The DPA restriction requires waterfront areas to be used for commercial purposes in maritime commerce, which are projects that are industrial in nature. Everett has borne the burden of industrial uses long enough. These uses restrict public access to waterways, and that goes against the work that Everett has done with the key environmental stakeholders to increase public recreational access to the Mystic and Malden rivers. To be clear, this bill seeks to remove the DPA restriction for this parcel for a specific limited scope. This bill was not filed with the intention of denying our residents or other interest parties the opportunity to have a say in the future of this site because all those opportunities will still exist. At the local level, this project will still require site plan review before our planning board. This is a public process. At the state level, the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, or the MEPA review process, will be triggered. The public comment periods under Chapter 91 of the Public Waterfront Act will apply. Public notice and comments are mandatory for licensing of any project on tidelands, including filled tidelands. Non-water dependent projects also require a public hearing. I would argue that this legislation and the potential to introduce a less commercial and industry-based use increases the ability to expand public access to a revitalized waterfront area. And while a cleaner, more accessible waterfront is a significant benefit of this bill, this is not the only positive outcome. This bill will give Everett the chance to remove one of the last pieces of our outdated industrial past. It will bring in new jobs for our residents. It will give us the chance to try and leverage private development to help the Commonwealth advance public transportation that will have a regional benefit that extends beyond the borders of Everett. And so, I'm here today asking for your favorable consideration of this bill. I am asking for this bill so that an actual proposal for a project can be introduced and vetted with multiple opportunities for public comment during state and local review. I am asking for this bill to be able to prevent the crippling loss of revenue from the power plant from doing further harm to our residents. The residents of Everett have waited long enough. Please don't ask us to put our future and the well-being of our residents on hold any longer. And I understand I only had 5-6 minutes. I could go on, and I could speak a little more about the city of Everett and the needs of our community. I think you all know we're a gateway city, we're an EJ community, we're the only city in the inner core not connected by transit. We're the first city to put bus lanes in. You know, I'm looking to bring the Silver Line in, commuter rail stops, the pedestrian footbridge over Assembly Road. With the development of this site, we can leverage all those things to help our community grow. Build more housing for our residents, build some affordable housing for my kids, my children who are 25, who are struggling trying to find a home, right? Those are the things that we want to do in the city of Everett. We have lots and lots of land in this area. I implore you all to come to the city of Everett and check out this area. There's about 300 to 400 acres of land between Exxon, the power plant, District Gas, National Grid, Sprague sites, all empty parcels of dirty industrial lands that's just sitting on the waterfront that should be and could be redeveloped. And we're going to leverage this development to build that transit to encourage more development to come to our city. Harvard Kennedy School did a study on this area. You should look at that study if you can. I can get it to you all. I would love to meet you all there at the site if you want to tour the area to get familiar with this site. But we're just asking, you can do it, right? This body can do it. You can remove this site from DPA to allow us to really move our city forward.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the time. I'm sorry for taking.
No, Mayor, listen, we understand. We understand. Any questions for the mayor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Appreciate your passion. There's been some discussion about whether or not a soccer stadium is the best use for that site. Could you explain why you think that would be the best use for that site?
I think it's going to take someone well-financed to be able to clean that site up. And, I think you looked at the former Monsanto site. They spent $100 million to clean the site up. You're probably looking at similar cleanup costs at this site. So I've talked to people in the housing business. I've talked to people in, commercial office space and lab and tech and all that. They just say the ROI is not there for them. It's not something that it's doable. Just to clean that up, to go through the process, but to get it cleaned up, it's not feasible, especially for housing and no one. So that's the biggest reason. I feel that if you have someone like Steve Wynn, right, who came in, or the Wynn team, they came in, they ROI, they could do it, right? They could spend $100 million to clean up the Monsanto chemical plant, because they were gonna run a different type of business. This is that same thing. I feel that there's no other industry that's gonna come here, that's gonna spend that money to clean that up, and a soccer stadium that's going to hold concerts and have the venue space to do many other things will have the resources and the ability, and they're well financed, right? They can get it done. They get it cleaned up and build something that's going to be beautiful. And no parking. There's no parking spaces. I told them, no. If we go forward, there'll be no parking there. We're gonna rely on public transit. We're gonna build out the transportation system, and how I'm gonna leverage that to build the transit system, so then I can leverage the rest of the city. So we can build more housing with zero parking, right? We can get residents using bus lanes to run bus lanes on Rutherford Ave, to connect Everett to the Civil Line. Connect Everett to I'm trying to go quick here. Connect Everett to North Station with a turnaround at Haymarket. Secretary Pollard told me a long time. Think out of the box, right? If you put bus lanes on Broadway, Everett, you can do them on 99, Melrose and Malden, and you can bring them up to Route 1. You can take thousands of vehicles off the roads, off the Tobin Bridge, and bring them into Boston on buses. We have to connect to Boston. This is what we're going to do. I mean, and we're going to do it with a developer who's going to have to spend the money to improve that area, right? I mean, you have Encore that owns the land. They're involved in this. We're going to leverage that to get this, this site cleaned up. I mean, no one else is going to do it. Mark my words. I've been born and raised in Everett. I drove by the Monsanto site my whole life. 50 years, 60 years, empty, dirty, contaminated. Nobody wanted that site. Was beautiful on the water, right? No one ever came to me and said, I want to build some housing there. I want to build some office buildings there. Nothing. No one ever came to the city. I've been mayor now for 17 years, 16, 17, since 2008. Nobody ever talked about the Monsanto chemical plant. No one's talking about reusing the power. No one's come to me and said, hey, we'd be interested, because people come to the mayor all the time, interested in different sites. No one has ever come to me and said, oh, this contaminated power plant, this is a good location for our, new office building. You know what I mean? There's no transit that connects there. So I mean, everyone talks about, like, we've negotiated no deal with the Crafts yet, right? This right today, as you know, I just want to remove this from DPA, so then I have the ability to entertain a proposal. And yes, they want to build their site there, and I'd like to see them build their site there, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, here you go. No, you're going to have to invest in public transit. We're going to connect this site to the city of Boston. I want a one-seat ride into Boston.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then we can, get the Exxon sites, another 100 acres, right? And you have all these different sites that we're going to be able to really connect the city of Everett to Boston and change that.
Any other questions, panel?
Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah,
I think you did. We're joined by Vice Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Miranda are also with us as well. Mayor, thank you for your time and your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Brian.
Now you know the rest of the story.